More than 100 years ago, a young lineman's dream of a national union of electrical workers began to take shape. His dream became a reality in 1891 in St. Louis with the formation of the National Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Its first president, a young lineman, still in his early 30s, named Henry Miller, a widower with no known family ties. Being a lineman was his life. Traveling from city to city, sleeping in boarding houses, Miller organized electricians across the country. But despite founding what is now the largest union of electrical workers, little is known about Henry Miller's tragically short life, which ended only 4 years after the formation of the union. According to an account by one of Miller's co-workers, reprinted in 1896 issue of the Electrical Worker, Miller was born shortly before the Civil War, a child of German immigrants. Texas was Miller's early home, and it was a popular destination for German immigrants coming to America in the middle of the 19th century. At an early age, he went to work as a water boy, helping to establish telegraph lines close to his home in Texas. Soon, he was traveling the country working for any company needing skilled linemen for the expansion of the growing telegraph system in the country. Miller would soon end up in St. Louis, at the time a center of labor organizing. While working at the St. Louis Exposition Hall, a group of local electricians recognized the need for a union. An organizer later met with the group at Stoley's Hall. It was there that the first St. Louis Electricians Union, AFL Federal Labor Union number 5221, was formed. Miller knew that the new local had to go national to grow and to thrive. The NBEW's first secretary-treasurer, James T. Kelly, would later say, Miller would tell us at each meeting that unless there was a national organization of electrical workers, we could never hope to accomplish much. In 1891, Miller was elected as the second president of Local 5221. In November, he brought together 10 delegates from other FLU locals around the Midwest, all believing the same as Miller, that a national electricians union was essential. The NBEW was founded in the St. Louis boarding house where Miller was living. That building still stands today. Miller remained president of the NBEW until 1894, after the financial panic of 1893 devastated the economy and the labor movement. Although he was no longer a member of the NBEW's central leadership, he continued to talk union wherever he found work. His last job took him to Washington, D.C., working for the Potomac Light and Power Company.
We are at the intersection of 36th and Newark, Northwest. And it was on this block between Wisconsin and 36th that we believe that Henry Miller fell.
One night, while trying to restore power after a storm in an upscale part of the city, Miller came in contact with a live wire.
He would have had to have examined all of the lamps on the circuit to try to figure out if there was any obvious problem. And if there weren't, then he'd have to go back and re-examine them again one by one to see where the problem was. The arc lamps were on very tall poles because they threw out an awful lot of light. And so he put his 30-foot ladder, leaned it up against the lamp pole, and climbed up and was working on it. Now, he could have been in trees, he could have been anywhere, but his partner saw a flash, and the next thing he knew, Henry Miller was tumbling down the ladder, and then they collided, and they both went down. And Henry Miller didn't lose consciousness, he just complained of a sore back.
Still conscious but injured, Miller was loaded on the Georgetown streetcar, traveling down Tenleytown Road, now known as Wisconsin Avenue, back to his boarding house on M Street.
When the doctor put him to bed, he didn't think there was much wrong with Henry. He was going to check on him the next morning. Henry didn't lose consciousness until about 4 o'clock in the morning, when he went into a coma and then convulsions, followed by death at about 4:30.
With no apparent family, Potomac Light and Power made sure that Henry Miller had a proper burial. Like other great men in this country's history, Henry Miller's work lives on by benefiting the lives of millions to this very day. Henry Miller, our founder, first president, and brother.